I think there is some truth to that computer science ends up representing. I think it's for a lot of majors. There ends up being kind of a subculture within a major, where there are certain things that could be done within that subgroup that wouldn't leak outside of that subgroup. So if I was in like a mixed company class or something like that, that one of the classes I taught years ago, I like team taught some class where I taught some technology stuff, and another teacher taught it was some sort of liberal artsy something or other. So they weren't computer science people. I don't know. This was like when I first started teaching. So this is almost as long as some of you have been alive. Like you were less than 5.
How long have you been teaching?
This is my 17th year.
Yeah,
Well, you were a little older, but I mean, in general,
I was barely in school, put it that way.
But
old guy? I forget his name. Old Asian dude.
Old Alex?
Yeah,
Old Alex graduated.
Yeah, I see him all the time at Best Buy.
Yeah, he's going to come back for grad school next year. He's going to do the MSCS.
I see him all the time at Best Buy.
I like old Alex.
He's old.
He's not as old as me, but he is old.
He's old.
I think is he 30? I think he's 30.
Yeah, I think so. Alex Nguyen?
Yep. Nguyen. It's Nguyen.
He's only like 27.
Are you sure about that?
I think it's Nguyen. Am I sure he's 30 or is that his pronunciation?
Because I have a friend with the same spelling of the last name, and it's Nugent.
Oh no, I'm pretty positive it's.
Well, it's because it's like one of 3 last names in Thailand. Okay.
Yeah, so I think
you have to pronounce it a little bit
it's
differently.
essentially whatever the shortest transition you can make between N and W. So it's Nguyen or Nguyen. I think you're almost supposed to not have the U in there. Just Nguyen.
Can I just say that really is the shortest transition.
Actually, the shortest transition would be.
I think we pretty much just clarify why I call him Old Alex.
Well, I mean, after Blade, we kind of just.
Well, Blade came way after Old Alex.
I know, but like using Blade as an argument, you're just like.
His mom calls him Blade now. You know Blade, right? So you didn't even come to the hackathons. You know who Blade is.
Well, I actually was close with Blade when he first came to university. He came on men's retreat with us.
Okay.
So I got to know him.
Okay. But you didn't call him Blade then?
No, I called him Leo.
Leo. Well, that's not his real name either.
Yeah.
You know his real name?
I can't pronounce it.
It's actually not very difficult. Yiming Liao. That's where the Leo came from, Liao.
He told me I couldn't pronounce it.
You should have just broken out in full Mandarin.
But his mom does call him Blade now.
Pretty impressive.
And
She's in the States. His mom's visiting for like 6 months. She's in Cedarburg. She's been here for at least a couple months now. I met his mom.
I met his mom at Best Buy. She had her own.
Did she just like rent out an apartment?
No, she stays at his place.
Oh, okay.
He lives in an apartment in Cedarburg. Okay, so let's start off by talking about the final, and then let's get back and see where we left off on our code. All right, so final exam is
Right now.
I think it's Monday.
One question.
1:10.
Monday 1:10. Yep. So Monday 1:10 p.m. till 3 p.m. We will be meeting in the computer lab down there, and I'm going to tell you kind of what things to focus on. I'm going to design, so you'll be writing an application like you did for the midterm. I'll probably design it to be about the same length, same size kind of application, but you'll have the full 2 hours to work on it. So hopefully that'll give you time to, ask some questions if you have questions, or, I can help you get stuff up to GitHub and that kind of stuff. But in any case, you can, again, use any code resources you have. And you can Google stuff. I don't care. I mean, you should come in with some pre-knowledge of what's available to you. But if you want to go and grab some code from Parse or something like that, you can. I don't care about that. I want you to show me that if you were put into a situation where you were asked to create an application, you would be competent to do that. And part of that is going to be using web resources.
Or we're going to be using CocoaPods.
Yes, so I'm going to talk about kind of the things you should focus on knowing that we're going to differentiate it from the midterm. So let's call it final exam focus. So the overarching focus is going to be communication between watch and phone. All right, so what I have you build is going to require you to be passing information between those two things. Okay, so be comfortable with that. Right, it's very likely going to be something where you do your data entry on the phone, because it's easier to do data entry on a phone, but then almost utility on the watch. Make sense? So if we think back to like our dice roller, it would certainly be, or even in our distress app, let's say, it would certainly make the most sense for you to kind of set up distress through the phone. You know, put in all your messages and stuff like that. Now you kind of have it. And then the phone updates the watch, and the watch is essentially an interface into your distress calls, as opposed to a means for entering distress calls. Where when we built the dice roller, we kind of started off with the watch being almost like a one-off, and it's more historically, I typically like to do dice rollers as a first app. It's something that everybody can kind of wrap their mind around, but it also gives us enough stuff that you can do different things. But you know, the reality is it would make just as much sense, probably more sense, for you to sit down and basically dial in all your rolls on the phone. And then when you get to your watch, the watch just shows you all your possible rolls. And you do the rolling from the watch, but you're not doing the whole data entry stuff. That makes sense? Okay, so the exam is going to have you get stuff into the phone app. You're going to be using Parse. So let's say store/retrieve from Parse. So given that, I will not have you use NS user defaults. So make sure you're comfortable reading something into the app. You know, maybe it's your a first name and last name as an example. And that first name and last name then gets stored into some record in Parse. Okay? So part of what I will have you do as part of this assignment is going to be have you, you're going to have your Parse site set up. I'm going to have you all share your Parse with me. So it shows up on my thing, so I can go in the event that your app doesn't work or something like that, I can go and look at your Parse tables and see what you'd set up. So you're going to have kind of three different screens you're going to be working with here. So your three screens are going to be watch, interface, let's say phone interface, and Parse website. So rather than you giving me like your username and password to Parse, you can go in and you can export. You can invite somebody as a, here, I'll show you this real quick.
Should I just give you my username?
No. That way I can just log into my account. Oh, and by the way, if you weren't aware, I think Parse just got bought out by Facebook.
No, really?
Mhm.
Parse changed a lot of
Well,
stuff
can't
on
use
there.
Parse anymore.
I was very
I'm surprised Apple didn't buy it completely, honestly.
Why?
Yeah.
Because Apple doesn't have their own cloud type.
That's true, and actually, it's actually not a horrible a statement.
Agnostic or something to cloud service.
It was also first for iOS. Parse was mobile first, but specifically was iOS first. So it would have made sense. I think maybe where Apple maybe loses interest is that it supports those other platforms.
Well, they can stop that. Like, it's not like
Buy Parse, shut it down for everything except iOS. You like Parse,
That's
don't you?
absolutely what they would do if they.
like it wouldn't surprise me.
That would be unfortunate.
That'd be a really bold move, though.
Well, that would be something Apple would do, but that would be unfortunate.
They literally just have just billions sitting there.
Because hopefully you've seen that, I mean, Parse is a really cool tool. And even just using it here, because if you look at all the SDKs that it supports out of the box, And then because it's a RESTful API, you can write any program to talk to, any technology to talk to Parse, as long as you can open up a connection over the internet. The built-in SDKs obviously make things easier, but the RESTful API stands on its own. So you can write, I think they actually have a PHP SDK now, but in the early days they actually did not. But in any case,
They couldn't really shut it down then if it, they would just shut down official support for.
well, no, they could privatize the RESTful API and then just make it so that only the, well, they could. I'm just saying, So here, like, if I go into the, so here's all of my different apps I have in here, but several of these are like, this one is one of my clients that shares it with me. So here, shared by Vincent Day. Here's another one of my clients. So it's here's another one. So it's if we went into distress and I go, I think it's in settings. I can go to collaborators. So you can do the Parse account email address for the collaborator, and I think mine is mike@awesomefat.com. Pretty sure that's mine on here. Let's see if I can confirm that. I'm almost positive since it was set up under my business. But whatever. We'll make sure we do it on the day of the exam, but that's all you do. You just go in there, hit share, and then it'll just show up in my list. So it'll be easy. But having said that, when you do create your Parse app for your exam, put your name in it. That will make my grading life a lot easier, so I just don't have a whole bunch of final exam project after project after project, all named final exam. Yeah, put somebody else's name on it. That's right. So that'll be beneficial for me.
Like 3. One of them says Dover, and it's just
Okay. And I'm not going to ask you to do anything we haven't already done in Parse. So it's going to be mostly just simple store something. I might have you do authentication, but if I were guessing right now,
Can we make our own authentication? If you said authentication?
well, I would have you do it through Parse. It's possible. I mean, I haven't come up with a project yet, but it's possible I'll give you all a starting point project. So you'll pull down a existing GitHub project that already has kind of starting point authentication. You just drop your piece into it. Just, authentication, I know you can go and open up your app that you've already written that already has authentication in it, and you could copy that stuff into your code, and it wouldn't be a horrible exercise to force you to do that during the exam, but it's not really the point I'm trying to get across during the exam. So I'll figure out kind of what's the right way to do it based on the assignment the project I give, but I want it to be more you doing actual work than just busy work, duplicating what you've already done, is the point. Okay, so
CMP programming.
in any case, you'll the project will definitely involve communication between the watch and the phone, 100%. That's going to be there. It'll definitely involve Parse. It'll definitely involve obviously the watch interface, the phone interface, and the Parse website, which kind of connects to the first 2 points. All right, so focus is probably going to be more on the watch being a usable interface rather than a data entry. So let's say that the watch is read-based interface rather than data entry. Phone is the data entry side, which just kind of makes sense. Things you should be comfortable with on the phone, or rather, let's start with the watch, would be, picker view and table views on the watch, because you're probably going to be presenting information in some way. I would think table view would probably be the, this one is likely the best candidate for what your watch will be. It's kind of a very convenient way of presenting information, right? So majority of what your watch interface is going to be is some sort of table view that you might be able to click on stuff and something happens, whatever that something is. All right, on the phone, all right, you should definitely be comfortable with table views and let's say collection views. Interchangeable. They're basically the same technology. Depending on what I'm having you put onto the read-in, I'll just pick one of those that's more appropriate. But specifically, custom cells for these. That make sense? So custom cell for both of those is identical. One's a collection view cell, the other one's a table view cell, but they're both cells. And you can drag stuff onto it and all that stuff. Okay, so that guy also text views for reading text into the app. Labels, presenting info to the user.
So we have to do anything that involves a dispatcher. Anything you like for that?
I don't think so, because I think that I'm gonna. In fact, I'll just say it. I don't think I'll have you do anything with alerts, because again, that's one of those busy wait thing where, you know, like you click on something, an alert comes up, and the timing seems off. So you got to do the stupid dispatch thing and that kind of stuff just to make it work. You can go into your project, you can copy the code that we did and do it. I don't think I'll put that on there. That's not where I want you spending your time on the exam. If that makes sense. So if you want to do some error checking, which I would also not require on the exam, just assume your user uses your app right for the exam. But I would say it probably makes more sense, and even in retrospect for us, rather than having the pop-up alert, just put a red label that says something bad happened and be done with it. But in any case, you won't have to do that, because that was only related to what we did with alerts, and I didn't deal with that. But do understand, so when we get back to, so that's watch, that's phone. So text views, labels, obviously buttons for the phone. So just generic ways of getting data in, generic ways of presenting data to the user, and then talking to Parse. So let me actually just start another slide for Parse, since I don't want the text to get too small here.
Is there a way we can like dim the lights in the front? It's getting pretty hard to see. But, well, if you go
Right
on
on.
the left side.
Yeah, it's the second to the second button from the top.
You can just go sit behind him. Just look at the screen on his left up.
Just sit right there on the floor.
Or in his lap, you know.
Is that better?
We're getting close to Christmas.
thank you.
Santa, you know. 2 birds with one stone. Has anyone ever asked you to be Santa Claus?
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like that's something like
I'd be good at.
you would go to the mall and just dress up as Santa just to mess with people.
That does actually that conversation came up with my wife the other day, because we were over at Bayshore and I wanted to sit on Santa's lap.
When you're bigger than Santa, you can't do that.
I used to get her every year when we were dating. I used to get her pictures of me like on the Easter Bunny's lap and me on Santa's lap, and Santa would like plant your feet. So yeah, so I actually do somewhere have pictures of Santa on my lap. I should have my wife dig them up. I'll put them up on Slack. I mean, I'm not lying. That's legit. I actually have pictures of Santa. I don't know if I have the Easter Bunny on my lap, but definitely Santa. Definitely Santa.
Where do you even find Easter Bunny to like sit on your lap?
Are Easter Bunnies not in malls anymore?
I don't think they've been in malls for like 20
Oh
years.
yeah, they 20 years ago I was dating my wife. We've already established that I'm a little bit older than
No.
I maybe act. Yeah, that's what it comes up in class for me, when things that used to be cool that students did no longer, like things that I think are still like in vogue, are not.
Like what?
Oh, I don't even know enough to be able to,
What's cool for you?
well, I guess what I'm talking about is like sayings and things like that. So there might be like a
That changes every day though. Like I feel like.
that's probably true. There's probably new
It's
little
more generational, I think.
right, yeah. So there's generational things like
Yeah, that's true because what's cool.
like in the
hasn't
80s,
changed for about
for
5
example,
years.
in the 80s, people said rad, right?
it's going
Oh,
back.
that's
It's going
rad,
back.
Radical's coming back, but not the way that we would have liked.
right? So, but I recognized when I started teaching, I recognized rad was not cool, right? Okay, so I don't know what was cool then.
Groovy.
No.
Not that old.
Groovy's before rad. That's 70s, I think. So awesome. Pwned. Do people still say pwned?
God,
Yeah.
13-year-olds on Call of Duty.
Yeah, PW. Yeah, pwned. Pwned noobs, right? Yeah. So that's not cool anymore, right?
It's
People
like
don't say that.
It's like a joke. Like if you,
It's a joke for like not being
Yeah.
cool when it used to actually be cool.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah.
the cool way to say
Yeah.
Right.
wrecked.
Power on,
Yeah, now
bro.
Oh, now it's wrecked.
Yeah,
And then
R-E-K-T,
it's spelled with
R-E-K-T,
an
or
R.
hashtag R-E-K-T.
Okay, wrecked. Okay, I have
Like
to.
rectal?
or Shrek.
Rectal.
I'll have to. All right, so I have to incorporate this.
Yeah, pretty much you gotta
So
do
you
that.
said Shrek, and the first thing I noticed is he's wearing a green sweater.
I feel a little offended, Nate. He's almost bald. I was bald.
He's got too much hair.
All right, so wrecked. That's the new. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll have to incorporate that. See, for me, it would still be pwn. That's what I'm kind of talking about. Is there?
Don't say pop.
Yeah.
Can I just submit something I already built for the final?
If someone gets mad, you can say they're salty.
Yes, that's a
Yeah.
good one.
Or if something.
Is that really a cool thing
Oh,
like
yeah,
that?
Yeah, that's probably my
actually
favorite.
Because I mean, I've heard you guys say it a lot, but I thought it was just like,
no, it's like
No,
a real
yeah.
thing.
oh, is
It's
it?
a super real.
That or butthurt.
Stupid.
Huh?
Butthurt.
Stop being salty.
Yeah,
Butthurt's the
that's
same thing as
Being
salty.
salty, but
It's
it's salty.
salty.
Stupid.
Back to the song line.
There's a lot of really good ones now, I think. Every morning I wake up and ride the struggle bus to that's another one.
Ride the struggle
Ride
bus.
the
Struggle bus, I do like
Even you can't even.
Yeah, I can't even. That's more of like a Tumblr one.
It's just a
It's
white
more
girl
of
thing.
Yeah, white girl. So white girl Tumblr, same thing.
So is that so that's the new version of pumpkin spice latte?
Yeah, Pumpkin Spice Latte has literally like just become ingrained in
Pumpkin spice
October-
latte.
September to
Ugg
November,
boots,
like,
yoga
that's-
pants.
North Face jacket.
the white girl
And North Face is
trifecta.
like,
The white girl
It's not
trifecta
big
is
now.
Panera, Starbucks, and Apple. I think it's
oh yeah.
or Ugg boots.
Ugg boots, iPhone, pumpkin spice latte, and yoga pants.
And
That
those
is your white
and
girl.
those sweater vests with the material.
Ugg boots.
Ugg boots, yeah.
So there's another example. I have no idea what Ugg boots are.
You don't know what Ugg boots are?
No,
You know
that-
what
Ugly
Ugg boots are.
boots.
You've seen them.
Probably.
They're the brown.
Hey, they come in multiple
larger
colors.
They're pretty high.
Yeah, they do,
like,
but
they
they're
got
pretty
like
much
fuzzy
brown.
stuff in it.
And they're like
Yeah.
fluffy
It's
as
just
hell on the
You
inside.
pay like $200 for a pair.
Okay.
and
I mean,
yeah,
but that's the point I'm getting at. Is so I'm sure I've seen them.
Yes.
But so where I used to pretty much be on par with my students, where I kind of I came with the same generation. I've now disconnected where I'm not. I mean,
I just don't care.
well, no, I don't think it's that. Like, I mean, it's not part of like my daily routine anymore. So I don't get the updates. So any updates I get from like my classes. So I may be more hip than other people that are like my age. But
Yeah,
there's still a gap now. That gap
The
wasn't
fact
there
that you're
before.
Using technology is like a step up from like a lot of professors.
He's not wrong.
He's
Well, I would hope that in computer science,
You never-
professors
you
are
never know.
using
You just, like,
technology.
pull out, like, typewriter. Okay, class. Today we're gonna be writing punch cards. We say no.
All right, we were talking about Parse, right? So
I think we're talking about cool.
just cool words. That's what the exam's going to be, a cool saying dictionary. All right, so
Only in the string class.
okay, yeah, exam recreate the string class and build buttons that allow you all these things to work. Okay, so
I thought our final was just going to be fixed strings and
That'd be pretty cool. So we actually do that.
So let's see, watch, picker view, table view. So presenting information, phone is going to be our table view, collection view for presenting, text view, label, and buttons for getting stuff in. Then on Parse side, you should be familiar with PF users. Like I said, if I'm going to ask you to do authentication, I'll probably provide you a starting project for it. Otherwise, I might say you can just create a single user by hand and then just hard code the user ID or something like that.
It's just PF user, right? It's not user.
PF user, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so be familiar with PF users, PF object. This is on the phone side. Understand the asynchronous saving of data and be able to update table views accordingly. So the idea is that when you save a piece of data, understand that that data doesn't necessarily save instantaneously in the cloud. Yet you might have a table view that you're making act like it's already been saved. So realize that with asynchronous data, since you're going to have a local probably array with your information in it, right? A local PF object array. Then what you can do is when you tell this guy that you just created over here to save, you can still go ahead and add that PF object to that array. And now he's available for to be shown up in your table view. And you tell your table view to go ahead and reload its data, even though he hasn't actually been saved to the cloud yet. He's still a thing. He's still a PF object, and he can live in an array built for holding PF objects. The only thing he won't have until he's actually saved is an official object ID.
So the value would still be there, as you're saying. Like there's a local copy of it with the actual.
Correct. There's a local copy, and because it's passed by address, that local copy it'll get that object ID as soon as it's done. But that's the only piece of information you would not be able to immediately have available to you because you built the PF object, right? You put in the first name, the last name, the email address, all that stuff. And the only thing that you could just take that PF object right there and never save it and throw it into an array. And he works as a PF object. The only thing that saving it does is it actually puts that information in the cloud and then returns back to the PF object a unique object ID. That's it. That's what saving does. All right. So as long as you're not going to use the object ID in your table view, you can still use the object ID when they click on it, maybe, and then that's a timing thing. Don't click on it too quickly. But if as long as you're not presenting the object ID, you can go ahead and use the other information that you manually put into the PF object, even while it's still saving, or even without even trying to save. But understand those caveats that go along with the asynchronous stuff. When we tell something to save in background, okay, when we're telling it to save something in the background, that takes time, right? And then we have that callback function that gets this chunk of code, this closure, gets called whenever it has actually finished saving. And that's the point, that if I need to do something upon it finishing saving, then I can go ahead and do it then. Make sense? Okay, so like I said, PF user, just from the idea of maybe I make you do a login screen because that's pretty easy, right? Just copy the code for logging in. If I just tell you to assume a username and password, or here's the username and password you hard code into the thing, just log in. But I definitely would not make you write a register page. I don't want you to burn your time just creating some text fields and stuff like that. When realistically, you should be able to do it almost instantaneously by just opening up one of your other projects, dragging those things in and copying it over, because then you have those classes and you have, but it does become a little more difficult now with the storyboard. It used to be easier actually, because before you used to have a zip file for like the register screen, and then your register VC for the code behind. Well, now you have all your VCs, you can bring those in easily enough. But your whole storyboard, you would have to copy that over as like your starting point, which maybe not the end of the world, but trickier than it needs to be, I guess. So in any case, you won't have to do a registration. Worst case on authentication, you'll have to put a username and password screen with just a button that reads in those two things and just authenticates, or you just hard code a username and password and pretend like you hit submit on view did load or something. Okay, so that's it for PF user. Just understand the purpose of a PF user specifically as object ID. All right. Similarly, we had done some stuff with like owner IDs, right? Can we do that with like pointers, PF user pointers?
Yeah.
Okay. So understand the idea of pointer types in Parse. We didn't. Did we do arrays? I don't think we did arrays.
I think we might have done it for storing the roles, but I don't think we ever.
Yeah, I won't have you do arrays. I won't. I don't want to get that complex in Parse. So.
Force it into JSON and throw JSON up.
Well, Parse supports arrays. It supports it built in. But since we didn't really do it a lot in here, I won't pick something as that complex anyway. So it's a non-issue. But I'm just kind of giving you areas where you should focus on. So forget about arrays. Be comfortable with PF users, comfortable with PF objects in terms of saving one, retrieving one. So let's do save query to get a list of, well, this is actually get an array of PF objects, but this is different than the array type in Parse. Yeah, in Parse, you can have an actual column in an object that is an array of stuff. I won't give you that. But you will, if you query all of the entries, let's say it's patient records, you'll get back an array of PF objects that you're maybe going to go and show in a table view, something like that. Okay. Oh, I just got a great idea for the app too.
Which app?
Huh?
Which app?
For the final exam.
Oh.
What is it?
Care to share?
No.
That's not. Come on. You're probably not even gonna use it.
If he told us he wouldn't use it.
Okay.
It's a good logic-based app, but also funny at the same time. And Christian worldview at the same time.
Kelton over time, Nick's used bad words in this presentation.
Huh?
Keep it on Parse.
Is it a watch to count how many times Arjun and I swear?
We don't have enough memory. Isn't there just 8 gigs in the Apple Watch?
Well, if you're pushing it to Parse, you got all the cloud storage.
Yeah, but how would you display the number? Scientific notation?
You have to swipe per digit. Like, man, I use less computation power to calculate pi to the 100th digit. All right, so yeah, I think this would kind of be it for Parse. We never did cloud code in here, right? For Parse, cloud code is cool for Parse, but the whole test is just on cloud code. It's actually surprisingly interesting. Just to kind of give you a background in cloud code, it won't be on there, but sometimes there are things that you want to control, and this kind of relates to the operating systems class for those of you who are in there. Where so the best example I can give you is like on a Facebook app where you have likes. So when you want to like a particular thing in the Facebook app, you click like, and then that you might have a number of likes that show up underneath it, right? Well, you want that to be as accurate as possible. But maybe you last loaded the page on Facebook 20 minutes ago, let's say. You've been flipping through there, so the things haven't updated the screen. So it currently says 4 likes. Well, let's say that in that last 20 minutes, a whole bunch of other people liked that post. You don't want it to have you click on it and then it says 5. You'd like to click on it and it says 22, or whatever's kind of happened in that period of time. Well, you don't have that information locally, so you'd have to do a whole nother request to update that entire screen. Now, what you can do though is with Cloud Code, you could have you can host requests in the cloud. So it's a way to put logic. See, right now we're just talking to Parse's. When we talked about cloud computing, we said cloud computing is mostly for data, but also there's some computation things that we might be interested in doing in the cloud. All right, so Cloud Code for Parse is very much the sideshow. It's not like their main thing, but they allow you to create. It's actually it uses Node.js as the technology, so it's JavaScript code you write. But it allows you to, as part of your project, have functions that live in the cloud, and you can access those really easily through the Parse API, the Parse SDK on the phone. So you can call upon a remote function, a function that's in the cloud, and that function can update a like and then spit back the updated number of likes for that particular row in Parse. Right? So it's higher performance, and then what you have is you essentially have a single pathway in the cloud for all likes to be updated, rather than having a whole bunch of these moving targets all updating likes from 20 different directions, and then there being kind of delays. You're not guaranteed to have the perfect count for likes, but it should at least be more realistic, what you get back from it. So cloud code is kind of a cool feature for doing some things that really don't make sense to happen on the app specifically. Whatever. So the exam will cover cloud code almost entirely. It's a cloud code app for Android.
No, Windows Phone. Because no one knows how to use that.
I don't know. Don't you do Visual Studio stuff in 370? Yeah, so Windows Phone wouldn't be bad.
420.
Is it? Okay. Windows Phone, the UI would probably be really bad, but the actual.
The code is the same.
Yeah. Well,
But same thing with Android. It's Java. So, yeah. In fact, I'm starting next semester in 300. I'm going to teach 300 as an Android programming class, where we're going to data structures. So instead of doing things through Eclipse and everything being command line, where you see everything out in text, we're going to learn in the first week of class how to write a simple Android app, and then get better at Android during the semester by writing linked lists in an Android interface. So we're not talking about creating crazy Android apps, but just a new skill for seeing our.
That's really smart because when you get you'd be learning.
I am pretty intelligent.
Yeah.
I've been told
I see
that.
why they give you this job. It's,
I have a question for you.
Can we make
No,
suggestions
because
of classes?
that's kind of what I was getting at. Is we're not learning Android programming. We're just happen to be using Android for a new interface, but we're going to be learning data structures. So we'll be writing an app for data entry, getting stuff into your linked list, messing with stacks. We did do Towers of Hanoi in 300, so now we'll have Towers of Hanoi as an Android app. So
That probably would solve a lot of issues for that program.
yeah, in many ways, Android will make it easier.
Just for the display.
So I think that'll be cool, and it'll also give you maybe a little bit more of a modern skill set. See, Java is a good enough language, but the problem is that modernly, the idea of console programs isn't cool, right? Unless you're doing stuff kind of in the we just talked about cloud code, that's done from the console. But generally speaking, when we think about modern applications, they have GUIs. It could be a crappy GUI, but it's a GUI. Is the punchline.
They're ready.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, don't even get me started on that.
Well, we saw it.
Did you try to use it?
No, but I saw it.
The usability is worse than the appearance.
I saw him scrolling around it and it looked hard.
Did you pass?
Yeah, got A on the presentation.
Did you use any foul language?
You didn't get points deducted for what was it, unprofessional language?
Aren't you ashamed that happened?
No, I don't care.
Are you really
I was exhausted.
I feel like you're the kind of person who would vote for Donald Trump.
Me? No.
Okay, I was just curious.
See, my position on it is I was super tired. I wrote the second app in 7 hours the night
You
before.
got
But the problem
points.
is if you do that in a business meeting, your boss doesn't give a shit. He just fires you.
You got the points. Yeah, as he's saying, as part of that. Yeah,
The worst part is you were warned beforehand that would happen.
yeah, that's just
It was
embarrassing.
only the word douche.
Did he tell you how that came up?
Well, the story I've kind of gotten is he couldn't come up with a better example, but he was
Yeah,
sending
well,
something to
stuff
you.
in, I put
No, he pulled up his phone and it says your douche is Evan. He is 22 years old.
Yeah, because that was the test data.
Oh, it was. So this was almost. It wasn't something he put in there during the presentation. It was preloaded.
Yeah.
almost like it was on purpose.
No. Like I had
It like it
old
was on
stuff in my thread.
What if it
It was
from Josh?
old
What if
and
Josh
new.
got put
Like,
in
no.
instead of me?
I had old stuff in my thread from when I was testing it, and I was testing
thanks.
it like
That makes
four,
me feel even better.
yeah, I was testing it at 4 a.m.
Well, here, this is actually surprisingly relevant, but funny from my past. So this was I gave a presentation in a speech class. This is not in the earliest days of the internet, but early. So this was probably in the year 1995, maybe something like
I
that.
was 5 years old.
Okay, so it was a presentation in a college speech class, and back then it wasn't, searching Google and stuff like that wasn't a thing. so you did your searches and you got your pages and you printed it. And now when you print stuff, it doesn't automatically print the URL at the top, but back then it did. And so I had these resources for this speech, and I printed out handouts for the class that they would have not even paying attention to the URL that was printed on the top.
I can only imagine.
Nobody ever said anything to me about it. But I noticed it later on because I had like extra copies. I mean, every single cuss word, triple X this, porn. It was like the most inappropriate URL you would have trouble coming up with it today. And this was printed on the top of every single sheet of paper that I handed out to the teachers. I was oblivious to it because I just printed out web resources, right? But back, so.
What were you what?
I don't even remember what the speech was on. I honestly don't. But I think it was some psychology something or other. It was. So the site I must have done the search for must have been kind of equivalent to like maybe today, like a forum post from today. That the URL was like, back then you had like things like geosites and stuff like that, where people had their website that they were hosting stuff on some sort of, weird page that had advertising all around it and stuff. So, for all I know, there was even pictures. So I don't think that was the case, but so I'm just saying it could be worse. You could have handed him pieces of paper that, let's see. Okay, so that will be the stuff to focus in on the exam. Like I said, we'll meet down in the lab. If you would like to use your own computer, that's fine. Bring it with you. But otherwise, the machines will be available. There should be less of a time crunch for this one than there was on the first one. Like I said, I'll design it so that if you know what you're doing, the average person in here should be able to finish it in about an hour. Okay,
And the first person gets points.
First person is going to lose points because they probably cheated. And for that sake, you weren't the first person last time.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
That was my first app.
Because you hadn't done any of the homework.
No.
That was my first app. First time I wrote one.
So now I'm
All right. So questions, comments, concerns, bribes.
Your bribes are.
All right. I'll see everybody on Monday. Make sure if you have any code resources that you want to have available to you for it, you bring it on a jump drive or bring your laptop, whatever.
So this is kind of cool.
You can use whatever you want, but I don't want you really talking to your neighbors. So don't steal somebody else's code. But
use my GitHub?
For that,
that's fine. Yeah. You can use web resources, whatever. Just be ethical. So use your own work, something like that. Or if you want to work with somebody else's code, bring it with you. I don't want you asking Abe during the exam, "Hey Abe, can I download your GitHub project or something?"
That battling
That's
stress.